Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to discuss the halachas that are unique to this year, to Tavshin Pei Aleph. This year's Pesach is a very unique kviyus. We haven't had this in a long time. Before we start, a short story about cleaning for Pesach and the beer chametz. The famous of Levi Yitzchak Barditchev, the Barditchev Rav, he was always known to be Melamed Schus on Klal Yisrael. On Erev Pesach, after the time of the burning of the chametz, he asked his shamish to go around the city of Barditchev and to try to find some tobacco. He went around, he was looking, he couldn't find. The Levi Yitzchak Barditchev said, "Here, take some money and offer money and see if you can find some of the illegal tobacco in the city." He went around and, of course, he found some illegal tobacco and he brought it back. Then the Yitzchak Berditchev again sent him out on a second mission. He should go out to find some chametz. He went around looking high and low. He couldn't find any chametz. He said, please go to the Yidden and tell them you're willing to pay. They should give you chametz. He came back and he said that Klal Yisrael, they're not willing to give chametz even if you pay for the chametz. So we all know how careful Klal Yisrael is, and especially Anash and Pesach and being Mahader in Pesach, and it's very important, the different minhagim and hidurim. As well, we also have to remember that there's a saying in Yiddish as chametz is nicht dust, and the kinder are nicht the korban Pesach. Chametz isn't dust, and your children aren't the korban Pesach, they're not the sacrifice of Pesach. Meaning that we have to differentiate between spring cleaning and Pesach cleaning. So they come at the same time. Pesach is always in Chodesh Aviv. It's always has to be during the spring. And our calendar is set up in a way that Pesach is always in Chodesh Aviv in the springtime. However, they're not the same. Spring cleaning and Pesach cleaning are different. So although many of us like to do them together, but it's important to remember that dust is not chametz, and to differentiate between what's cleaning for Pesach and what is spring cleaning. With that in mind, I'd like to start to discuss the unique dinim of this year. And if we have time afterwards, we'll Mirz Hashem discuss other halachas that are important for every year. So I'm going to go in the order of the time frame, starting with Thursday by day, and then Thursday night. We'll proceed Friday to Shabbos and go through the order. Number one, the Tainis B'chodesh, when firstborn fast, is on Thursday. Firstborn fast, or if they have a son who's a firstborn, they fast. Instead of fasting, one can hear a siyum of a Masechta, and that is done this year on Thursday instead of on Shabbos. We move it back all the way to Thursday. Thursday night is the night of Bedikas Chametz this year, and Bedikas Chametz is like a regular Bedikas Chametz like all years. You make a bracha, and you search for the Chametz, and we put out the 10 pieces, and we say the bittul afterwards, everything like a regular year. The next day, Erev Shabbos, which is Friday. So usually on Erev Pesach, there are certain malachas which we don't do after Chatzos. After noon, we don't do certain things. We don't cut nails, l'chatchila. We don't cut hair. We don't sew. We don't do certain malachas on Erev Pesach after Chatzos. However, this year, Erev Shabbos is not Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach is on Shabbos. So therefore, on Erev Shabbos, one is allowed the entire day to do those malachas, cutting nails, cutting one's hair, sewing, whatever things need to be done. For Pesach, one is allowed to do them this year, Erev Shabbos. Now, burning chametz. Burning chametz this year is done on Erev Shabbos. We can't burn on Shabbos. So we burn chametz on Erev Shabbos. Now, al pi halacha, one is allowed to burn chametz all the way up until Shkia, Erev Shabbos, since the entire day it's not Erev Pesach, and you're allowed to eat chametz. So one would be technically allowed to burn chametz an entire day. However, it's better to be careful to burn it around the same time that we burn it every year. This is just to keep a clarity that every year we do things the same. We shouldn't get mixed up from year to year. So we continue burning the chametz around the same time. Most Rabbanim hold that you can be lenient up until Chatzos, which is around 1 o'clock, and burning the chametz. Some say to do it a little bit earlier, like an hour earlier. Either way is fine. As we said earlier, this is what's best to do. If someone was not able to burn the chametz then, they should burn the chametz later on in the day. That's b'diavad if they weren't able to burn it earlier. At the conclusion of burning the chametz, we do not say the usual nusach of bittul, being mevatel, nullifying the chametz. That is left for Shabbos, which is Erev Pesach. So we're just doing the burning. And we as well say the Yihiratzin. We say a special Yihiratzin printed in the Siddur. That is said, the Rebbe used to say that, and this year's Kviyas would say it on during the burning of the fire. He wouldn't wait till Shabbos. So just the bittul is skipped out, and that's left over for Shabbos. Now, when it comes to cooking this year, things are different. Since Erev Pesach is Shabbos, and we don't want to have dirty dishes on Shabbos full of chametz. So we should not, the Shulchan Aruch explains, we should not cook our food in chametz pots and pans for this Shabbos. Instead, we should cook everything Pesach-tik. Everything should be in Pesach-tik kelim for our Shabbos meals. Because if we're going to cook in chametz-tik kelim on Shabbos, we're going to have a dirty challah pot, a dirty soup pot, and there's two problems with that. First of all, practically speaking, how are you going to clean it of all the chametz on Shabbos? It's not going to be easy cleaning it and getting rid of all the chametz stuck to the pots and pans. And as well, washing dishes on Shabbos for the purpose of that night for Pesach is not so pashut according to halacha, because it's an isra of hachana, preparing for the next day. On Shabbos, one's not supposed to prepare for the next evening or the next day. So washing the dishes would be a form of preparing for Pesach. So if b'diavad one did have dishes that need to be washed, one should wash it, because it's a mitzvah to get rid of the chametz, and that will push off the isser of achana. However, l'chatchila, one is not supposed to cook anything in chametz-tik dishes. So you should only be using Pesach-tik dishes to make your challah, your soup, everything in your Pesach-tik kitchen. Now, Friday during the day, one is allowed to eat chametz, even though you burned the chametz already. You burned whatever chametz you don't need. You're not planning on eating, you're getting rid of, you burned it. But eating chametz, you're allowed to do an entire day Friday. However, one has to be careful. If you're going to have a lot of chametz in your house, how are you going to get rid of it? You have to be careful, because once it comes Shabbos, it becomes difficult to get rid of chametz. And so the best thing is to buy a minimal amount of chametz, just what's necessary to eat, and everything else you can get rid of. Now, the sale of chametz this year is different than other years. There are different ways how to do the mechiras chametz this year because of this kviyas. Most Rabbanim sell the chametz earlier in the day. However, they sell it with a clause that the sale does not take effect until closer on to Shabbos. Maybe like 18 minutes before Shabbos, a half hour before Shabbos. And every Rav has what he writes in his mechira, usually close to Shabbos, maybe by the first bell, where the sale will take effect then. Which means that up until then, you can add things put things in the closets or in the rooms that you're giving to the goy. You could put things in there, and you could take things out, back and forth. However, once it hits closer to Shabbos, then the sale is going to take effect. You're not allowed to add anything else, because it's not going to help to add after the sale was made. Putting things in the room or in the cabinets later, it's too late. Whatever you sold, you sold. And whatever you didn't sell, you didn't sell. So you have to put things away. If you have any leftover chametz that you were eating on Friday, you were partaking of, pack it away, put it in the cabinets, put it in the closets, put it away, and tape it before when it gets closer to Shabbos. Now, a person has to plan out this year all the chametz you're going to have for Shabbos. You don't want to have any extra chametz because once Shabbos comes, the chametz has already been sold to the guy. You don't want to be left with all this chametz. What are you going to do with this chametz on Shabbos? You can't make a fire and burn it. You can't get rid of it. What are you going to do? So the best thing is to buy the minimal amount you need for Shabbos. You think out how many chalas you need, how many bilkalach, just the right amount, for Shabbos, and Friday night and Shabbos morning. And again, anything which you bought on for anything you have Shabbos afternoon, you still have time up until closer to Shabbos to put it away in those closets. But once it's going to reach close to Shabbos and the sale takes effect, you're going to have to get rid of the chametz in a different manner. If for some reason you're left with a lot of chametz that you did not put into the closets, and it's too much to get rid of on Shabbos, you could call in a non-Jewish person, a guy, and give it to them as a gift, and let them take it. And you don't tell them to carry it on Shabbos. Just tell them, here, this is for you, and they themselves take it, and they leave the house with your chametz. Now, throwing things in the garbage on Shabbos does not help because your garbage is still in your house. It still belongs to you. So the chametz still belongs to you. So putting it in the garbage cans is not a method of getting rid of chametz. If you do that before Shabbos, you could put it in the garbage bags and put it on the curbside and throw it out. So you got rid of your chametz. However, once it's Shabbos and you cannot take the chametz out and throw it out in a bin, a public bin, outside of not in your bin and outside of your property, it's going to get more difficult. Putting in your own garbage is not an option. So therefore, it's important to buy just the lechem mishnah, what's needed for everyone in the family, to be careful buy what's enough. Whatever is extra after you eat the meal on Shabbos, it can be flushed down the toilet. You can take it and don't put large amounts, obviously break it up into smaller amounts, but the pieces of challah which are left can be flushed down the toilet. Or if one has the option, one can give it to a non-Jew as a gift, and the non-Jew should take it and take it to their home. This Shabbos, one should use paper or plastic cutlery and plates. You don't want to get yourself into any problems. So the best thing is when you're eating the chametz part of the meal, you're eating the challah, you should eat it on a paper plate or on a napkin. So you're careful to keep the crumbs. Try to eat it neatly. Shouldn't make a mess. You don't want to make your house a chametz stick. And as well, you don't want to use dishes which you have to clean and wash off. Now, one shouldn't have the challah this year. People usually like to have the challah in the soup or in their chalent, or they like to dip it into different salads. One needs to be careful with this because what's going to happen is if you don't finish the food, you're going to end up having to flush that soup or chalent down the toilet. So it's not the best option. So you have to try to be careful to have the challah minimal amount what's necessary. If challah did come in contact with any dips or any salads or any chalent, if it's not eaten, then those foods have to also be disposed of and put down the toilet. If for some reason one is not able to put it down the toilet, one doesn't have a non-Jew to give it, one could pour on it bleach or something else that ruins the chametz and makes it inedible. And they could put it in their waste bin. They make it inedible, they're poigim it. So, but when it comes to time of the Isser Chametz, the Chametz is no longer edible, that's not a problem. Now, when it comes to making Kiddush, one is allowed to use one's becher. However, the becher should not be near the chametz. You don't want to get it next to the chametz, because then your becher would become full of residue of the chametz, and then you're going to have to wash it, and which can be done. It's just better. Better to keep things cleaner, so you can keep the challah in a little bit further away from the becher. After you make kiddush, you can take off the becher off the table before, and after you wash, and you'll cut the challah, but the becher won't be on the table anymore. So you just rinse it off and put it away in any place where you don't usually use on Pesach. It doesn't need to be sold to the goy, since the chametz is not, it's not chametz. Anything which is not chametzdik, any utensil, any keli, a pot or pan which is clean, does not need to be sold to the goy. It just needs to be put away in a proper place where you won't come to use it on Pesach. So you could just take the becher and the knife or anything else that you use and put it away in a cabinet, a place which you're not going to open on Pesach. Now, Shabbos in the morning, we daven early. The davening in the shul usually around like 7:30. This is an order we should be able to eat and have the Suda Shabbos before we have to burn the chametz. After, now during the meal itself, the best thing is not to have any food on the table and to have the challah when the table is clean. So one eats just the challah, everyone eats their challah, they finish the challah, they should try to eat 2 ounces if you could, or at least 1 ounce. And you should after everyone finishes, they can wrap up the napkins or the tablecloth and put it down the toilet, drop the crumbs in and the pieces, the larger pieces, flush it down the toilet. Now the table's clean from all the chalitz, and now you can put on a new tablecloth, and you can have your suda with Pesach food, all from your Pesach kitchen. If you want to eat on 2 separate tables, that could also be done, as long as you're able to see the table, that from the 2 rooms, the 2 tables, you can see from one table to the next. You don't have to make another bracha. If you can see the other room and you want to move to a different room for the rest of the meal, then the best thing is to bench. And after you bench, you'll go to the other room and have your Pesach, the Pesach food. So let's say you're going to eat in your basement or in another room. You're going to have the challah, you wash, you make kiddush, you wash, you have your challah there. After you clean it up, you bench. Everything has to be cleaned up, because this is not sold to the goy. These challahs that you saved for Shabbos were not part of the mechira. The mechira happened already. This is challahs that you set aside that were not sold to the goy. So you have to clean it and you have to get rid of it. And then you'll proceed to the other room where you're having your meal, and you'll have the rest of your Pesach meal. Now, some have a custom to split the meal, which means is that they have all the cold foods in the beginning when they come home from a shul. They have the cold foods. They have the challah, maybe they have gefilte fish, some salad, but because the time is late and they have to get rid of the chametz and there's pressure, so they leave the cholent for later in the afternoon, and that's okay. If you need to do that, you can leave the Pesach the hot foods could be eaten later on after the chametz is burned, and little later on in the day when people are hungry and they can have the rest of the Suda. But in the morning, we need to wash and have the challah and have maybe some fish and some eggs, have a Suda Shabbos. The cholent can wait till later if someone feels they don't have the time and they want to wait for later. Now, after one finishes one's meal, one needs to wash one's mouth out. One should wash it very carefully. There shouldn't be any chametz left in the mouth. One can use mouthwash. One shouldn't use toothbrush or toothpaste, but one can use mouthwash. As well, those people who have braces or they use have fillings, fake teeth, so they should not eat very hot foods for 24 hours before the time of getting rid of the chametz. 24 hours before on Shabbos. 24 hours before, meaning from a little bit before we burn the chametz on Friday, they should stop eating very hot foods. If the food is warm, it's not a problem. A very hot soup or a very hot tea, they should wait till it's cooler. They shouldn't eat it hot because they have these metal fillings in their mouth. Now, after one washed one's mouth and one cleaned up all the chametz, one got rid of it, put it down the toilet, or if they couldn't, they gave it to an anju, or if they couldn't do that, they poured bleach or other types of liquids that can make the chametz not edible for even a kelev, even for a dog. Not edible food at all. At that point, everyone recites the bittul, the nusach bittul, which usually is recited after we burn the chametz, but this year it's moved over to Shabbos itself, and we say the bittul, we're mevatel, we nullify any chametz which we saw, which we didn't see, we forgot about. All the chametz is batel, and it's hefker. We don't want to have any shaychus without chametz. So that's a nusach we say. We don't need to say the hi ratzin again, which we said already when we burnt the chametz on Erev Shabbos. Now on Shabbos itself, it's also to prepare for the Seder, because one is not allowed to prepare from Shabbos for the next day, even if the next day is a Yom Tif. The next evening is a Yom Tif. It's the Isser V'Achana, you're not allowed to prepare. So therefore, it's all preparations needed to be made before the Seder should optimally be made Erev Shabbos. One should do everything possible to have everything ready for the Seder. Matzah Shabbos, especially this year, we changed the clock already. The Seder is going to start very late. So the more things we have prepared and ready for the Seder before Shabbos is better. So Matzah Shabbos, we can start quicker. But on Shabbos itself, after one gets rid of the chametz, there's nothing for one to do. One is not allowed to prepare for the Seder, to get ready, set the table, and do things for that evening. So one can learn and enjoy Shabbos, and people can get rest to stay up for the Seder, but they should not be making any hachanis for the preparations for the Seder that night. Now, just a step back, at the ending, after you finish your meal, you might want to sweep up underneath the table. If there's any crumbs, you're going to use your broom, chametz sticker broom, or you're going to sweep up whatever crumbs there are into a dustbin. Just put it into the toilet, wash it down. You'll take the broom then and shake it off over the toilet for any pieces that are stuck in there, or take it outside if you have a outside, and bang it on the outside in the porch or in the backyard to get rid of whatever's there, and then put it away and use your Pesach Tikka broom if you have a Pesach Tikka broom. Now, for some people, it is difficult to have challah Shabbos morning. They feel there's too much pressure. There's all this challah going on in the house, and they have a Pesach Tikka house, and maybe their apartment is small. They don't have different rooms, and they feel it's very hard all the children running around to have chametz on Shabbos in the morning. So that's understood. And if someone feels they're in such a situation, there's a very easy method for them. And that is something called matzah ashira. Matzah ashira literally means rich matzah. You know, the matzah that we eat on the night of Pesach is called in the Torah lechem oini. Lechem oini means it's a poor man's bread. There's nothing rich about it. It's just flour and water. We don't have spices. We don't add sugar. We don't have eggs. There's nothing in it. It's a plain bread, flour, and water. So that's the only matzah you're yoitza for the night of the Sedarim. You have to eat lechem oini. However, technically speaking, if one would have matzah which had in it eggs and sugar, spices, oil, it's kosher l'Pesach. What could be the problem? As long as you don't eat it for the Sedarim, you're not using it to eat the kazesim, it's fine al pi halacha. That's called matzah ashira. So indeed, Sfardim do have matzah ashira. However, the Ashkenazim, already for hundreds of years, do not have a minig not to have matzah ashira. That's brought in Shulchan Aruch and in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch and in all paskim that Ashkenazim do not eat matzah ashira on Pesach. Reason is because there is a certain opinion that other juices besides for water can make something chametz as well. Maybe water got mixed into the fruit juice, and maybe it wasn't prepared as so carefully for Pesach, and therefore for various reasons it has become a minig across the board that all Ashkenazim do not eat matzah ashira on Pesach. However, if someone wasn't well, there was a choyle who need to eat food on Pesach, we can give them matzah ashira. An older person was old and it's difficult for them, they can eat matzah ashira. But in general, most people, we do not eat matzah ashira on Pesach. However, matzah ashira is not chametz, it's just a minig that we don't eat it. And Erev Pesach, Erev Pesach in the morning, it's not yet the time when it's also dit chametz. We can have matzah ashira in the morning. We could wash and have our meal on matzah ashira. This means in English, egg matzah. You go into the store, you're going to see there's egg matzah. You can choose egg matzah which has a good hechsher on it, kosher Pesach with a good mahadin hechsher, and the matzah ashira is perfectly kosher. However, we do not eat matzah ashira on Pesach, but now it's Erev Pesach. It's before the time when you're burning chametz. You're allowed to wash and have, instead of washing a challah, you can have matzah ashira. What you gain from this is, if crumbs fall around and pieces go all over, it's not a big deal. Although we don't eat matzah ashira on Pesach, but owning matzah ashira is not a problem, and having the matzah ashira around is not an issue. Now we know that it's usher to eat matzah Erev Pesach. Since by night we're going to have matzah by the Seder, Chachamim did not want us eating matzah Erev Pesach, because if someone would eat a whole day matzah Erev Pesach, what type of feeling would they feel when they come to the Seder to eat the matzah? So Chachamim said, no one should eat matzah Erev Pesach, it's usher, and until the evening, because in order the matzah should be, there should be a chavivus, one should eat a matzah with a taiva and a desire at the evening. A minig Chabad is that we don't eat matzah for 30 days before. From Purim, we stop eating matzah until Pesach. However, matzah ashira, like we explained before, is not lechem oini. You're not yoitza the mitzvah matzah with matzah ashira. Therefore, there is no isser to eat matzah ashira on Erev Pesach, as long as it's in the morning when you're still allowed to eat chametz. So we'll eat matzah ashira. And the advantage over here is, even though pieces can fall around on the ground and it gets around the house, it's not a problem, because matzah ashira, we don't eat it, but you don't have to get rid of it. You don't have to flush it down the toilet. You don't have to get rid of it, as long as you buy matzah ashira with a good hechsher. But you should, after the meal, you should put it away, because we don't eat matzah ashira on Pesach, and you'll keep it for after Pesach for Isur Chag, but we don't eat it on Pesach. So that's more or less it for the halachas that are necessary for this year. I see there's still more time, so I'll just bring up a few other halachas which are important, which many people ask. Many babies are using formula, and some of these formulas have kidneys in it. So if a child needs kidneys, one is allowed to give a child or even someone who's not well, a chayla, even if they're an adult, they're allowed to give them kidneys to eat, as long as obviously it's kosher Pesach with a good hechsher on it. One is allowed to give kidneys to a baby. One doesn't have other options. One can give kidneys. Now, when it comes to burning the chametz, I see sometimes many people come to the chametz with a lot of challah. During the year, when the women are baking challah, they separate challah for the kohen, and they keep this challah in the freezer, and they come to the beer chametz with a whole bag full of challah, with dough. This is not such a good advice, because it's difficult for this to burn. Many times people wrap it up in silver foil and plastic wrap, and it's not easy for the fire to burn it. The best thing really is that one should burn the chametz, burn the challah right away. When one bakes the challah, one can put it on top on the grate, burn it, or you can put it in a silver foil pan, or and put it into the broiler, or put it on a piece of silver foil and put it onto the broiler. We don't want to put it direct contact with the actual oven. And you broil it, and maybe you turn it over, and the thing is totally burnt, and then you can throw it out. If for some reason you do have a minhag to keep your challah until Erev Pesach, be careful to wrap it in paper or take it out of the wrapping in order to be able to burn properly in the burning of the chametz, which is this year on Erev Shabbos. Now, when checking for the chametz Thursday night this year, like we said earlier, everything is regular. We make a bracha and everything is regular this year. However, some have this mistaken notion that checking for the chametz is just checking for the 10 pieces. And it's sort of like this game where we're looking for the 10 pieces, and after we found the 10 pieces, we can go to rest. So really, that's not correct. The night of B'dikas Chametz is a night we're supposed to inspect our house. We're not supposed to clean the house. It's supposed to be clean before. But now that the house is all clean, we're supposed to inspect the house and do a B'dika, look all over, and see if any Chametz is remaining. So in order to make sure that the bracha is not levatala, we put out 10 pieces, so we for sure found Chametz. However, Lamaisa, you're actually supposed to search for chametz, and one should think about the places one usually puts chametz in that you might have forgotten about, like the children's briefcases, or the children's pockets, or your own purse. The children's briefcases you could actually put away in the chametz ticket closet and sell it to the goy. But for some reason you're planning on using it on Pesach, you have to clean it. As well in the car, to make a good cleaning and bedika in the car, the night of bedikas chametz, to go look inside the car. Any rooms which you don't bring chametz in a whole year do not need to be checked. However, rooms which you bring chametz in, you need to make an inspection and to look over any places where chametz could have been brought. Very important to also look in coat packets, even the adult coat packets, to look if they have any lollies or candies, any chametz. When it comes to svarim, it's very difficult to clean svarim and check svarim for Pesach. It's kemat impossible to open up every page and see if there's a crumb there. The best thing is that one should not put any svarim on the svarim that I used the whole year, svarim or lahavdil books, should not be put on any of the Pesach tables or counters. They can be put on the couch. They can be a separate table where people read books or learn. They shouldn't be put in any contact with any surface which food is being prepared or being placed on. So things like benchers that you use on and Sidurim, which are used on the table throughout the whole year, you should put those away and maybe put them in the closet where you with all the Pesach, the chametz sticker stuff, because you don't want to use that on Pesach. Buy some new Sidurim and benchers. The Sidurim, if you could clean them properly, you could use them, but best not to put them on the table because there could be crumbs in there, and we don't want any crumbs coming on the table. Now, sometimes on Pesach, one forgets and one left something in the Pesach, in the chametz sticker closet. Can I go in there and get that thing? So the question is, how important is it? If it's something important, then one can temporarily go in and take something out from that closet. But in general, one should not be entering into places which were sold to the goy, because besides for the chametz being sold to the goy, we also rent the space that the chametz is sitting on. We rent a cabinet space, we rent the floor space where the chametz is sitting on to the goy. This is one of the ways the goy acquires the chametz. He actually rents the space the chametz is sitting on, and by renting it, it's one of the ways he's able to acquire the chametz. So this space is actually rented out to him for 8 days, and therefore we should not enter that space unless it's very important. If there's something very important that is there, we need to take care of something important, one needs to go in. So the Rav tells the guy, and he asks him Rashos if something is very important, if we can go in there to get it, and the guy says it's okay. He allows, if it's something important, we can go in. He's nice and he lets us come in, but really it's his space, so we shouldn't be going in there. And as well, we're not allowed to be near chametz sticker kalim on Pesach. We can't have them visible because we might come to use them. So something just in and out, only if it's important. Now, this year, Achrein Shel Pesach falls out on Shabbos. There are those people that want to make knedlach, they want to make matzah brai and different types of gebrachs. They're allowed to make it on Shvi Shel Pesach. As well, they can make it on Chol Hamoed if they want. However, they have to be careful not to eat it because we don't eat gebrachs. As well, they have to be careful that they keep it in separate kalim, totally separate kalim, so they do not come at all in contact with the food which you're eating before Achrein Shel Pesach. So, because only on Achrein Shel Pesach are we mekel to have gebrachs. Now, when it comes to children having gebrachs, in the early years, someone asked the Rebbe, "Can I give my child gebrachs?" The Rebbe said that that giving a child gebrachs is okay. However, not to give machine matzah to the children because matzah is michla de nusa. However, later on years, the Rebbe brought up that even children, we should mechanech them not to eat gebrachs. So, l'maisa, we do not give children gebrachs. However, what happens if the child sits by his own table and he makes gebrachs? That's his business. We don't maybe want to position him a little bit further away, not near the adults, but children, it's very hard to stop them from gebrachs. They have their grape juice and their becher, and they're moving things around, and there's bound to be gebrachs. As long as you're not eating the gebrachs, it's not a problem. And you should you can tell the child, if a child's older, tell them that it's better not to have gebrachs. If for some reason they're not listening, you don't have to yell at them or take it away. Just they'll get older, and you'll explain it to them, and they'll stay away from gebrachs. Just to finish off with a few more halachas. When it comes to the Seder night, eating matzah, only those people who have a kaira, who eat matzah, who have a kaira, have to eat 2 kazesin, 2 ounces of matzah. Those people who are taking from the box matzah, they don't have a kaira of 3 matzahs, they only need to eat 1 kazais. When it comes to the dalet koises, so l'chatchila, we try to drink the whole cup of either grape juice or wine. However, this might be difficult for many. We try to drink most of the cup, 51% of the cup. If we cannot, one cannot drink that. One could also drink a cheekful, which is roiv reviz, which is 2.1 ounces, according to some opinions, or even 1.5 ounces would be enough to drink from the grape juice of the wine if one cannot drink more. So l'chatchila, we try to drink the whole cup. That's not shaykh for everyone. Drink majority of the cup, which is 51%. If we can't do that, so we could drink up to 2 ounces or 1.5 ounces is also enough, and your yoitza, the dalet koises, l'chatchila. There are those that want to dafke have wine, but it's hard for them. So when they're having grape juice, they can mix into the grape juice a little bit of wine, and that's a little bit more mehudadik. If you could have a little wine mixed into your grape juice, it makes it a little better. I just want to clarify what I said earlier. This year, actually, Pesach starts on Sunday and finishes on Sunday, so we don't have a problem with making gebrachs on Achron Shel Pesach on Sunday itself. If some reason someone wants to prepare something on Erev Shabbos and the last day of Chol Hamoed, you could, but it's not so advisable because you got to be careful to make sure that you don't eat it and also doesn't come in contact with any other foods. One more last halacha when it comes to kashering, the counters and the sinks. So the minig is that we do 2 steps. We pour hot water all over the counters and the sinks. After we pour the hot water, we cover all the countertops and the sinks. And we have today, you can buy sink inserts that fit your sinks exactly. If you don't live in an area, you have these sink inserts, you can buy a tub or put silver foil on it, and we cover. The reason why we do both is because we are concerned that maybe the kashering wasn't done the best manner, and as well maybe the covering will become ripped, and therefore we do both. We cover and we kasher if we could. So we pour hot water over all the counters and the sinks, and then we cover it with paper, silver foil, plastic, whatever we cover with. In the fridge, you don't need to kasher the fridge. Just line it and put lining, and you can use fridge liners to cover the fridge and the freezer. One more thing, when it comes to bedikas chametz, there is no api halacha. You do not need to move heavy furniture like behind shaffers, to clean behind shaffers, bookshelves, or behind the refrigerator, behind the dryers in the washing machine. It's a nice thing to do, but api halacha, you do not need to pull them back. If these are heavy pieces of furniture that you would not normally move a whole year, they stay put, you do not go behind there, no one goes there, then we're not worried on Pesach you're going to go there. Api halacha, you don't need to do it. It's part of spring cleaning, and many people do it. There's nothing wrong with it. However, if this is something difficult to do, one does not need to clean behind heavy furniture which is not moved. Obviously, behind the couch is different. Couches are moved around. You should clean behind the couch, and movable furniture definitely should clean under it and behind it as much as one could. I think we'll conclude this year. If anyone has any shilas on things we discussed, they can email me at kollelanash@gmail.com. That's KOLLEL Anash, ANASH @gmail.com. That's kollelanash@gmail. And I wish everyone a kosher and freilich in Pesach. And someone's asking if you use grape juice, you are yoitza. Yes, you can use grape juice for all the dalakoisis, and you're yoitza. If you could handle a little wine, you should try to put a little wine in. But if not, you're still yoitza. It's just a matter of being mahadar more. A kosher and freilich in Pesach to everyone, and this year we should eat the carbon Pesach in Yerushalayim with Mashiach Tzidkenu.
Amen.
Kol tov.